So apparently under Nebraska law, if we go to more than and they don't need to wear a helmet. And they have to have a headlight, tail light.
I'm sorry, get more popular.
It's, yeah, and in Texas, it's technically legal, so a lot of people don't know, but the other thing is, I don't know if you guys have seen it, maybe Brad, you've seen this, the guy drives the wheel board there, so it's like a car tire. And then it's sitting on like a metal platform. No, he stands on it and he rides it like this, and it's got literally like a car sized tire in the middle, maybe a little smaller. And then when he leans forward a little bit, it goes forward, it speeds up, and when he leans back, it brakes, so it's got a glass on it. He's been cruising around all up and down, where he goes over by Citrus that such, and then he goes down to military.
Motorized skateboard.
Pretty much, yeah. So apparently, getting a helmet on it, to wear them when you're on the road, it's illegal, so. But we've got several also followers playing the people who are ready for your breaking traffic laws. And so we thought it'd be cool, kind of like,
I think it's a good idea.
yeah, so in Texas, they have a lot. It depends on where you're at, but they make you license. So, but the problem is that there's pedal assisted electric. So technically it's not a full motor, so you pedal it a little bit and then a motor kicks in, and then there's one that's just an electric motor. So.
Okay, so it looks like.
To follow Nebraska.
Yeah, they are.
Times and speed limits, they still have to.
Yeah.
Turn signal.
But anyways,
So they're all-
they're chefs, they're like.
Yeah, right.
It's all right. They said it's been fun working there.
Good, yeah, they were, that was a big deal, I think, get them to move or get them to come and stay here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 'cause they live on Fremont Commons.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's what I need, one of those bikes that you just pedal a little bit and go fast. You look like I'm going, I'm working harder than I actually am. Jeff's back there, he's like, no. You gotta work hard.
Don't ever want a motor on.
Don't put a motor on there. Yeah.
When you get to remodel.
Travis, quick
Yeah.
question. I put in there with.
Works.
Library.
So far. Would that be for?
Yes.
For example.
Yes, fine.
Our animal fuel extraction, we're doing lighting.
We basically rented it out.
It will look out this way.
It will look out, yes.
I still have to get one.
Yes, and we've already talked about that, so yeah.
Is that like?
It's gonna be an inconvenience. Oh, yeah, later this fall. Not our fault. And I thought it was mean. But it was this fall, yeah.
Stuff going on with that.
Yeah.
Got a ways to go. We haven't had as many.
Have you had some?
Okay. That's the guy who was what?
We had a little bit of problem.
You can get all the committees showing up.
Not all the time. We started out having 4 regular. We had 5.
So.
Right, well, thanks for doing that.
You don't have any time, so that's all.
Well, you got.
Hi.
Okay. So. And it's Tyler is ordered at the TV audio.
No, that's a separate. I mean, it'll be incorporated at the same time.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
When you do this, that's what.
That's what's gonna come on board, yes.
So that's already been.
Chris.
Like this stuff here, and did you talk about any of that?
Carbon steel.
Okay, last I tell you, just like we did it. But so, yeah, Shanahan here, so what's the plan that you want to do? Renovation.
Well, we're looking at new carpet, lights, new comfort desk.
Hi, Sally. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thanks for doing that. That's good. Oh, no. Oh, seriously. Oh.
No, it's probably. No, I don't have that. We're still- we're about this far into it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. The time is 6:30. We're gonna go ahead and open up public comment. Views expressed by individuals during public comment do not necessarily reflect the views of the city of Fremont, have not been verified for accuracy by the city. As a reminder, city council staff are not permitted to respond to comments or questions during the public comment period. In accordance with Fremont Municipal Code Section 2-103, public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, should not contain topics included on this evening's agenda. If you are here and wish to speak, there is up front, please sign in, or there's also comment cards in the back. So.
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. Tonight, I'd like to reflect on an article that was in the paper just the other day and it raised some concern for me, and I raised some concerns in the past. I would hope that perhaps you would share some of my concern with regards to Luther Street traffic upcoming as the new grade school will be opening in the fall. And the article in the paper indicated that at 22nd Street, there would be a 4-way stop sign controlling that intersection going forward. I know we had some discussion about traffic flow when that was being designed. And I think I suggested that's probably the worst location you could have put exit on 22nd Street since it's so close to 23rd. Now that you're thinking about putting stop signs at that location, you'll be stopping traffic at 16th Street, stopping traffic at 22nd Street, stopping traffic at 23rd Street, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I had suggested earlier that in the design of that intersection, that the city consider putting turn lanes into that intersection while it was being paved, or better yet, paving from 16th Street to 23rd Street, so turning lanes could be affected all the way to 23rd Street. That didn't happen. If you notice and pay attention to the grade that's on that intersection, that'll have to be redone substantially if that street is widened, which is in your street plan, because of the slope won't match the flat street anyway, so they'll have to be redone. That would seem to be a bit of a waste of taxpayer funding. But back to the four-way traffic stop issue. I suggested when that school was going in, and Mr. Legband had suggested this before, that you seriously needed to consider a traffic signal at 23rd Street for the northbound traffic to exit from the grade school and the businesses that are going in there as well across from Walmart. Your consultant at the time said, no, it's too close to Luther Street signal. We're not going to recommend you put a traffic light in there to control that. And I suggested that's a traffic safety issue for students, for parents that are taking their kids to and from school, and for bus traffic that will be turning perhaps at that intersection with a load of students. Now that you're going to do something similar at the 22nd Street intersection with four-way stop, it seems to me you're really going to impede traffic flow on Luther, which is a heavily trafficked north-south route in the city. You only have to look at Military to know what kind of traffic might end up on that street and what kind of a bottleneck you might have between 16th Street, 19th Street, and 22nd Street and 23rd Street during the school hours. I would ask that you give some consideration to whether that should be a school traffic light, not functional 24 hours of the day, but only functional during school hours. And if you can't have one on 23rd Street, maybe that also could be a school traffic signal, functional during school hours, and not functional 24 hours a day, as a means of providing student safety and traffic control. Just ask that you take a look at it. I think there's some merit perhaps into better improved traffic control. Thank you.
That's bad case, that's either that.
Right, the time is 7 o'clock. That closes open public comment. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll go ahead and open up the regular city council meeting. Again, the time is 7 o'clock. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the rear wall next to the agendas. At this time, we'll have roll call.
Please cast your vote for roll call. Seven council members are present, Mayor.
Right. So next is mayor's comments. And tonight we have our service awards. And to do those, I'm gonna do something a little different. We're gonna come to the front and do the service awards tonight. So give me a second. Right, so we have tonight, 3 service awards for May, 3 employees with the city that are gonna be recognized. We have Ryan Ross with 25 years of service. Ryan has been with the street department since 1999. He started as a maintenance worker 2 and was promoted to equipment operator in 2008. We have Christopher Snyder, 10 years of service. Christopher has been with the Department of Utilities since 2014 as an instrument and control technician. And with us tonight is Peter Keegan, 10 years of service. Pete started with the city of Fremont in 2014 as an engineering associate. He was promoted to engineering associate 2 in 2018. Congratulations, Pete, 10 years with the city. Congratulations. And to get your award, sir. And we need a picture. All right, very good. Thank you. Thanks again. Right, you can often see Pete out and about in the community and in the engineering department, there's a lot of work to do and he's on the task. So if you see him out and about, tell him thank you. So congrats to all of our service award recipients this evening. That concludes my comments. We'll go on to item 1, which is a motion to adopt the current agenda for the May 14th, 2024 regular meeting. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make that motion.
Councilwoman Ganem.
I second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Right. Next is the consent agenda. All items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from council or staff consent?
May I have item number 5 removed, please, Mayor?
Okay. Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, just number 8, please.
Any other items? Any items from the public to be removed this evening? Seeing none, I take a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9 through 15. Councilman Vaughn. So moved. Councilman Jensen.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Okay, item 5 is the motion to approve the discharge of fireworks by Midwest Fireworks Wholesalers LLC for various events. Go ahead, Tyler.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I would ask that you receive into the record an updated staff report for this item and
Okay.
certificate of insurance.
Okay, Councilman Jensen.
Move, I'll make that motion.
Councilman Sukram.
Second.
Okay, cast your votes to receive.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor. Right. Mayor and council, the staff report will show that they followed up and provided with me rain dates that they're wanting to have. That's the second to the last bullet point there. And then they also provided a certificate of insurance for the event. With the construction at the airport, they're looking at the location for that. And so that's kind of a moving target right now. And I don't think we have a final location on that yet, but they plan on moving forward with a fireworks display, I believe, in that general area, but I'm waiting to hear more on that. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Any comments from the public on this item? Okay, any additional comments from council on this item? Councilman Vaughn.
Would we just be looking for a motion to approve as amended or as received?
As amended, yes, motion as amended with the updated documents.
I will make that motion.
Councilwoman Ganem.
I will second.
Okay, cast your votes.
The motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
All right. We'll go ahead and move on to item 8, which is to receive the local option economic development fund LB 840 quarterly report. Councilman Von Baron, we'll let Angie have our staff report. So
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Angie Olson, Plan Administrator. Before you is the quarterly report coming to council. It's the an update of the performance of the program, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, it's not really a question, it's just a comment. I think it's worth noting. Several years ago, we appeared here quite frequently in front of the city council as a group of Central Park residents, asking for relief, obviously, from some of the Tech Park runoff and some of the flooding that was coming across that. And I think, the 840 funds have been part of funding that project. But I think we also need to acknowledge some of the good things that happened. I know a lot of you got as tired of seeing us come as we probably got of coming. But it was interesting last week there was some debate on whether it should be built for a 100-year rain event in Fremont. And last week we had our third in 8 years. So we've got a couple hundred years to spot, I think, before we come due again. But my point is that rain event, the residents of Central Park went from almost laughing about our dry hole because of the drought to that detention pond was literally full. In fact, it was starting to come over the east side of the berm. So that one event filled that. Otherwise, that event would have found its way, obviously, to the residences. We've already had one house that had at least $40,000 worth of damage from that. So I think it's important to thank the council for actions like that and for helping us. And in fact, the president of our homeowners association wrote a short letter, simply said, "Dear Honorable Mayor Spellberg and Fremont City Council, the Central Park Homeowner Association would like to thank you for listening and acting on our behalf. The Tech Park detention pond that was installed just west of our HOA is working as intended. This is evident in the wake of our recent storms. We appreciate the relationship that the City Council and our association have established. It's nice to have a city council that listens and collaborates with their citizens to create a safe community. Thank you again on behalf of the pleased association members, and please continue to advocate for communities in Fremont." Signed, Luke Grenier, our president. So just once in a while, we need some good news. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you for those comments. And is there anything else from the council on this item? If not, I'd take a motion to receive the report. Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion to receive the report.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
All right, we'll go on to unfinished business. Item 16 is resolution 2024-127, directing staff to begin the process for the rehabilitation of the Cavich Garage. Have an update from Mr. Zetterman.
Good evening, Justin Zetterman, Director of Public Works. Won't spend a whole lot of time since you guys discussed this at the last meeting, but what's brought before again is the decision on what to do with the Cavich Garage now that we have some better information that our consultant was able to pull together for us. The big plus of it, finding a way that it can be repaired without actual removal and replacement of these prefabricated sections. So happy to answer any questions anybody might have on this.
Councilman Vaughn.
Help me understand the membrane option. Does that mean that the upper deck panels would be removed, a membrane placed down and then poured back over top of it?
It would not be underneath the pavement. It would be something that was effectively painted on top. And the two options, one is maybe like a sealant you might put on your driveway, something that is going to have a shorter life. At 1 to 2 years for the sealant option, if you spread that out over 10 years versus the price of just getting it done now, it's about the same. You can just keep doing this every year, or we do it once and then we come back to it. But it's preventative maintenance, that the type of thing that maybe had that been done previously, we wouldn't have been here. All hindsight, easy to say, but
Well, apologies for not being here last meeting. If it was already discussed, I
I don't know.
apologize. So that membrane option and vehicle traffic on that, obviously it's meant for vehicle traffic. It's not
Yep.
going to deteriorate.
yeah, no, you don't have high-speed turning or anything that would really create shearing stress on top of it. So it should be able to last that long. And again, it is a greater upfront cost, and we could probably get the same benefit by year after year just putting a sealant coat on it. It's
Thank you.
just
Councilman Jensen.
I just had a question. It might be for staff as much as for you. I'm just looking at, if we go through with this rehab, we will have 2 levels of parking. Is that not correct?
that's correct.
And it's going to take a period of time to get this done also, right? I mean, what my thinking is, if we're going to go in there and do this, and I think it's the best option, I'm think the covered portion of the covered garage should be paid parking. I don't think it should be free. It should be paid. If you're going to be underneath, and if the people, especially county employees that work at the courthouse, want to park for free, they park on top. They want to park, have a daily and a monthly rate underneath. And that's certainly something we can visit over the next few weeks as the construction project is going on. That was all the thing I had to say about it.
Councilman Von Baron.
I started out asking one question after the council meeting, and it's not critical to say, but after the last meeting, it became pretty obvious to me that none of us really knew what was needed. And so I started out with one question, and it got a whole lot deeper than I thought, not necessarily in a negative way, but I talked with Tom Cody, who with the BID on 3 different occasions. Tyler was in one of their meetings as well, and I talked with a few business owners. The thing that I think becomes apparent is that almost all of them agree that the upper level is very seldom used, that it's not a heavily used portion. And that's where I began to run into the conflict of saying, do we really want to do that and commit ourselves to somewhere between, I think, sealer was 150,000 over 10 years and membrane is 240, so 15 to 24,000 a year. But I'll argue with myself and tell you at the same time that Fremont over the last years has really not invested significantly in downtown. And I think if anything, we need to support that. the question to me is the second level, the more I listen to it, if you listen to some of the talk that's going down there, there's actually, there would almost be a request that we put the second level on and then cover it as well for covered parking. Don't know that that's practical, but as I work my way through this, the comments that came up was that there's really not probably enough traffic parking during the day to justify it. But when you get to nights and weekends, plus off-street parking for the apartments, I think that's when everything really comes into play. And I definitely agree with Councilman Jensen. As you look at this, we don't have other paid parking in the, or excuse me, covered parking in the city. If we're going to do that, I think it's fair to either do one of two things, to ask that this perhaps be paid parking to help cover the additional cost that we're going to down here, that or else see whether or not the county would be willing to come in on a share, maybe cost share this whole project, since it is their employees that gain the majority of the benefit. The merchants that I've talked to will tell you generally that very few of their patrons, they believe, actually park there during the day. So it is primarily a county facility in that regard. So I could support rehabbing it. I bite my tongue at the ongoing maintenance costs, but I could support the rehab to support downtown. And as well, if we could find some reasonable way of either cost sharing with the county or turning this into a paid parking lot, for at least for the covered portion.
Councilman Von Baron, I can kind of speak a little bit to that. After the last meeting, I know it was mentioned that, you know, yes, the county does utilize the garage. Was able to have a conversation with Chairman Missile on it. I will say we value the county employees. We value them, their patronage downtown. And it is nice to have them right there. You know, he said, I asked if they would be willing to consider help contributing to the expense of this repair. And he did say that he would take it to his board members, and they would consider it. I know there was no guarantee, but we've started that conversation. So I did have that conversation with him, and you know, I guess, yeah. So that's really that. Councilman Horner.
You know, I guess last meeting I was probably the one that maybe could take most of the blame on still being talking about this. And I've been giving it a lot of thought myself. But Justin, with the, you know, there's concern about the ongoing maintenance on it, but in my mind is, no matter what we do, there should be ongoing maintenance on whatever we choose here. So to me, that's almost maybe something, and I'm not trying to look back and smack anybody in history or anything, but maybe that's just something that was missing before, is the ongoing maintenance. So I'm hoping that we won't get too bogged down in that. Yes, that's a cost and we need to be concerned about it, but I kind of think that cost maybe wasn't there in the past, and maybe that's kind of why we're where we are today. So if we don't want to end up here in another 15 years or 20 years or whatever, maybe that needs to be something that we just not be as concerned about as far as the decision we make today. We got to be concerned about ongoing costs. I know that, but I mean, is that
I can't speak to what was being done, but if you look at the way the stairs have rusted out or things like that, it certainly would lead to the appearance that maybe preventative maintenance over the life of that could have saved some of that.
So for me, ongoing maintenance is something that it's kind of a given. I mean, we should be doing that. So whatever we do today, I hope there's ongoing maintenance on it so that we don't end up here in the future, or at least as quickly in the future.
Yeah, and Carrie Hofford, our street superintendent, she's been looking into could be used here, airport, wherever, different types of concrete sealants to help prolong the life of what we're building. So it's certainly on the forefront of what she sees as long-term maintenance for city assets.
Any additional questions from council at this moment? Yeah, Councilman Vaughn.
I do have one more if I could. So do you have any sort of idea on the lifespan of this? As I understand it, mid to late 70s, so we're 50 years-ish into its existence already. What's the total anticipated lifespan, assuming we would undertake these repairs? Do we have any sense of that?
They didn't provide any estimates on what they think the date would be. A lot of it, I would say, comes down to this preventative maintenance. If you look at the Broad Street Viaduct we just took over, on a balance sheet, you'd written that thing off years ago, but it's been maintained, and again, more work was done, and work gets done, and these structures can be made to last for quite a long time, as long as we stay in front of the little maintenance issues and that little leak on top eventually becomes the crack that's causing the concrete on the ground. So I hate to put a number on it, but I'd like to think you could get quite a bit of serviceable life out of this if we just pay more attention to that in the future.
Did you also get a sense that we could potentially start digging into things and find that there are catastrophic failures that would necessitate removal?
I don't think, in talking with them, or as I read the report, that the fear was we're going to get into this and go, oh shoot, this isn't even possible. It's just, I can see that crack goes for 25 feet. When we chip it out, how much further does it go? I think it's going to be just kind of creeping in size. I don't know that it would be all of a sudden, oh no, this whole thing has to come down and we're going to find something, but it's undoubtedly going to be at least a little worse than what we're seeing. Cause I mean, that's all any of them have to do to work from is visually. And a lot of it is very easy to visually see, but yeah, we find something all the time when we dig into it. So
Thank you.
Anybody from the public here to speak on this item?
Red Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. Almost hate to weigh in, but I wanted to share some experience that we had at a corporate facility that I worked at that had similar problems. And I have no idea how the city maintains post-winter cleaning of the parking facility. But when you talk about maintenance and having to do annual maintenance and perhaps repair of the membrane and upkeep of all of that, perhaps once a year, I would suggest to you that what we found at the corporate when they almost shut down our parking garage for very similar things was it wasn't necessarily the kind of maintenance that you're discussing generally here. It was winter cleanup that was disastrous to the parking structure. Salt is thrown, I assume that it is. I think I've seen it in the parking facility as well. It's probably on both levels. And if you don't clean that up every winter, corporate found what that was doing was rotting the concrete and rotting the rebar inside the concrete and making it structurally unsound. And if they hadn't have taken action, they would have torn it down eventually. So my encouragement to you is that as you look at the ongoing maintenance for membrane and all those kind of things, that you make sure that the street department has adequate funds and personnel. If they're not doing the winter cleanup and salt removal, that you give them the resources and tools that they need to do that as well. It will help maintain and provide longevity to your parking facility. I'm glad you're keeping it. I do believe that as Fremont develops further downtown, that facility may not be as heavily used today, but it certainly has the potential for being one of the design needs for downtown as you develop more and more nightlife and residential living. All of those things will bring more people downtown, and having that kind of a dual level parking facility, I think would be great. I know that earlier there was discussion when I was on council about having that at least covered on the second level. I think it was even discussed as to whether or not that had a potential for 3 levels at some point in the future, and whether it was structurally sound to do so. Based on the current dialogue, I don't know if that holds water anymore, but certainly as Fremont grows, covered parking is always, premium. And if you're going to go to pay, covered parking and payment for covered parking seems to make some sense long-term. So thank you.
Any additional comments from the public? Okay, any additional comments from council on this? Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, I think we've hit all around it. I don't want to labor this, but I think the fair summary, if I'm understanding it, is that if we had to go based on what is there today, probably we only need one level. But the second level is right now it's regarded as much as a shade and a nice place to park as it is anything. If you ask the merchants downtown, they'd probably even advocate for putting on the second deck and covering it as well. And no question, people would find that nice. But I think it comes down to the practical reality. If I could, I'd like to put it in the form of a motion, and I would move to approve the staff's recommendation with the condition that since we are going to go ahead and cover it, maintain it, and those kinds of things, that we do look at the both options seriously of cost sharing with the county and making it a paid parking ramp.
Okay. Councilman Jensen.
If that's an amendment to the resolution, I'll second that amendment.
Okay. So motion to approve the resolution for rehab and repair with a condition to continue to pursue funds from the county as well as look at options into paid parking. Okay, it's been motion and seconded. Is there any other discussion on that? Councilman Horner?
Yeah, I don't want to beat this to death either, but I'm a little confused then on the motion that's before us, because if we're making a motion to approve the recommendation and we're conditioning that on this pursuit of the county helping and going and doing the paid parking, when are we going to know that that other part is achieved? And are we going to be holding off on the rehabilitation before that other part gets done? I'm a little confused on what we're voting on. I guess I'd like some more clarity.
Okay. Councilman Vaughn?
I would have some of those same similar concerns, more specifically in the vein of if indeed the county is able to help out on this project, I would hate to have that double whammy codified into our resolution that paid parking is going to become an option too, because that might change how they feel about it. I think that maybe is something we look at down the line, but I don't know that it needs to be tacked onto this.
Councilman Von Baron, just to confirm, your motion was to do the rehab, correct? I mean, that as listed in the resolution.
Yes, go ahead with the rehab, recognizing that it's not all essential, but it's definitely an investment. And I'm fine amending the motion to either county participation or paid parking.
Okay. Okay.
Councilman Von Baron, is it just to direct staff to pursue those options and see if it's viable?
I think that'd be appropriate.
Okay.
Is that clear, council? Okay, Councilman Jensen?
Yeah, that just to make sure we're absolutely clear, that was my intention on the second, was that we were directing staff to pursue this, but not to exclusion, but not to delay this any further, to continue forward with what we're doing.
Okay, so there's been a motion to approve, and a second by Jensen, with the condition to direct staff to pursue county funds or paid parking. Okay, cast your votes on that.
Motion carries 6-1, Mayor.
Legal, do we need a motion as amended, or did that vote cover it? Okay. All right, we'll move on to new business. Item 17, resolution 2024-136, authorizing staff to apply for assistance from the Nebraska Grid Resiliency Grant Program.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Angie Olson, Grant Coordinator. This item is for the Nebraska Grid Resiliency Grant Program. The staff has worked with the Department of Utilities on a preliminary proposal, and they have requested that we send in a full grant proposal. This grant will be, the grant project is to relocate a 69 kV transmission line. And the project estimated amount is $5 million. The cap amount for the grant application is $2 million. So we will be applying for $2 million. And the total recipient cost or city cost would be $3 million, which includes the grant match of just over $966,000. Applications are due June 21st. And this was reviewed by the UIB at their May 14th meeting. And it was recommended to that City Council approve it by a 5-0 vote. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Questions for staff on this? Thank you. Any comments from the public on this item? Any additional comments from council on this? Councilman Vaughn?
I continue to be excited and happy to see us chase down these potential grant matches and proposals. Just wanted to thank staff for their efforts, and if no other discussion, motion to approve.
Councilman Jensen?
I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 18 is resolution 2024-139, authorizing the mayor to sign the local option economic development fund loan agreement with New Star Sourcing and Service LLC. Staff report.
Good evening, Angie Olson, Plan Administrator. We have received an application for LB 840 funding from New Star Sourcing and Service. They are an animal feed warehousing and distribution service. And they moved their company from Omaha to Fremont last September. By moving to Fremont, New Star made a variety of investments within our community, and they're all detailed in the staff report in front of you. New Star plans to grow their company further in Fremont by adding a premix plant to their current footprint at their facility, and that will allow them to add feed manufacturing onto their services. The estimated project cost is $1.2 to $1.5 million, and New Star is requesting $200,000 from the LB 840 fund. Staff recommends an award of $200,000 with 50% or $100,000 being repayable at 2% interest, and 50% or $100,000 eligible for performance-based forgiveness. And the forgiveness measures are that by the end of 2024, New Star would commit to have the premix facility built. They would retain their current 13 full-time employees. They would add 2 full-time staff members and retain all positions for 5 years. The average minimum hourly rate would be $29.35 per hour. That excludes president and vice president salaries. New Star does have a robust benefit package. They do pay 85% of their employee health premiums. The Citizens Advisory Review Committee found New Star to be an eligible business and this project to be an eligible project under the Fremont's local option economic development plan at their February 27th meeting. And the local option review team approved the recommendation by a 6-0 vote at their May 9th, 2024 meeting. As of April 30th, the fund balance in LB 840 funds is just over 1.3 million, and that does grow by between 80 and 100,000 each month. And I'm here to answer any questions. I also would like to introduce Tony Calanino, the CEO of New Star, is also here to ask any project specific or company specific questions you might have.
Councilman Horner?
Yeah, thank you, Angie. Can you help me understand what is a full-time equivalent job?
So a full-time equivalent, the way our contracts work for local option economic development contracts is we total up hours and we divide that by 2080, which is a full-time position. And that designates how many positions. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? We do have some like thinking 505, Pearl Academy, who are smaller businesses where their equivalents are a combination of part-time positions. But that is how the contract states that we figure it. So it could be a variety.
Any other questions? Councilman Von Baron?
Yeah, Angie, do you have any idea, the average hourly without executive salaries?
The average hourly is $29.35.
And that's with executive salary, so include.
Oh, with executive,
Yeah.
it's around 54.
Oh, so that's without.
Yes, that's without.
I misunderstood.
Yes, yeah. We wanted to exclude that to just be transparent of what the bulk of the positions salaries are.
Well, and I think that's actually healthy. Just out of curiosity, I did some digging back, and of course you can find a wide variety of estimates, but I found some that were much wider, but the most recent estimate I found in 23 was that the average hourly wage in Nebraska is somewhere around $24.50, which makes this very positive. But Fremont's hourly wage at the same time, the average was something like $22.10. And as I say, you can find a variety, but my point is, it's good to see funds going to promote businesses, given the conversations that we're having about affordable housing and other things. It's good to see the funds going into businesses that will in fact increase the average hourly wage in the city of Fremont. So thank you.
Any other comments from the council at this point? Councilwoman Ganem?
No, I just think it'd be nice to hear from the owner, from Tony. If you'd like to just give an oversight, or how did you come to pick Fremont?
That was actually a bit of a no-brainer for us. We've been bullish this direction for a long time. Ted Brands is vice president of the company. He lives in Oakland, Nebraska. And it wasn't just that Fremont happened to be kind of halfway in between. I'm listening to the talk of everything, going downtown, and I think Fremont needs to prepare itself for what I believe is coming. I think there's going to be tremendous growth in this city over the next 10 years. And, for us, it was just a logical move. And we've not regretted a moment of it. So just a little bit of background, and first of all, I'm honored to be in front of all of you, and I'm honored that you're considering this application on behalf of our company. We started this business about 7 years ago from scratch, based in Omaha, as Angie said, and we've systematically built it up to something we're pretty proud of. But what was always lacking was the roots in the ground. When we were in Omaha, we were in a leased facility, and we strictly were warehousing, and we always had designs on moving into feed manufacturing and some of these specialty items like premix. So when this facility, which we honestly had our eye on from 2017, became available, we were very eager to snatch it up. But it changed our company overnight. I believe our employee estimates are conservative for where I think we're going to go. I hope. But to the discussion with Councilman Von Baron a moment ago, one of the things we believe at our core is investing in our people. Turnover is expensive. It's painful. And if you have good people, find a way to keep them, whether it's, with a salary or with benefits that are, we recognize they're unusual what we're doing, but there's no better investment than the one we make in people. So, and again, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And it's nice meeting you, and wish you the best here in Fremont.
Thank you.
Welcome to
Thank you very
Fremont.
much.
I did have a
Councilman Vaughn?
If I could. The minimum average hourly rate comes out to, at a 40-hour-a-week rate to just over $61,000 a year. And, I'm not sure what a livable wage is anymore. I'm not sure if anybody does, but that seems to be, a little higher on the end of the spectrum in the grand scheme. What makes the work that you do specialized enough that employees could be justified to be paid that? If I'm
Sure.
might ask?
Well, we've got a broad array of members of our team. We've got a strong middle management team. Some of those people might make from $80,000 to $120,000 a year. And, you know, we have our warehouse team, which even, you know, we brought 2 warehousemen from, that were with us previously. They've been with us from day one in 2017. You know, they both earn plus or minus 55,000 a year, you know, on a forklift. And again, you said livable wage. I think it's very hard, for people to raise a family or, you know, live in a place that they want to live for much less than that anymore. And so, you know, you know, even on the low end, you know, I can't imagine paying someone less than $40,000 a year to do the work. It's just, that's just base to me.
Appreciate you for that.
Yeah.
Councilman Von Baron.
Just a quick comment. I spent the bulk of my career in and around the livestock nutrition at varying levels. This is not a business for the meek. So I appreciate what you're doing and think I understand some of the challenges.
Thank you. I've had my sanity questioned more than once.
Councilman Jensen.
I just to go to what Councilman Von Baron brought up, I'm on the LORT committee. And the one thing that really, that sealed it for New Star was looking at their wage and benefit package, particularly the benefit package. The wages are nice. The benefit package being picked up at 85%. Well, for me anyway, it threw it over the top, said, okay, yeah, we want to encourage this as much as we possibly can.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Mayor.
Are there any comments from the public on this item? Okay, additional comments from council. Councilman Horner.
No, if there are no additional comments from any of the council members, I would like to make the motion authorizing resolution 2024-139, authorizing the mayor to sign the local option economic development fund loan agreement with New Star Sourcing and Service LLC.
Councilman Jensen.
And I will second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Welcome to our community. Thank you for being here. Thank you. All right, item 19 is to certify the election results of the May 14th, 2024 primary election. Go ahead, Tyler.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the election, the primary election was held on May 14th. Had some discussions with the county clerk. She's working on those, getting those election results to us. She anticipates us getting those that certified election results to us tomorrow. I was speaking with Travis and he had worked on potentially a motion for you to consider tonight that would, you know, allow us to receive the results and satisfy our need to get the information as a result of the election and our ballot questions to the state Nebraska Department of Revenue so that we can continue the sales tax. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for staff? Legal, do you want to give?
Yeah, sure. This process is required just to, it's more form over substance, but since we don't specifically have certified results, but we know the results, the clerk has assured us of them. We just don't have the piece of paper yet. So I would recommend the motion to move to receive and file certified results of the May 14th, 2024 primary election upon the city clerk's receipt thereof from the Dodge County Election Commissioner. So that'll give Tyler the authority he has to do what he has to do to make sure that this is all filed with the state by June 3rd, which is a hard deadline we got to meet. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Councilman Vaughn?
I didn't necessarily have a question, but would make a motion to approve as amended by legal.
Councilwoman Ganem?
Second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 20 is ordinance 5678, continuing half-cent sales tax passed by voters on May 14th, 2024. This is first reading. Consider request to suspend rules and move to final reading. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this would be the ordinance of the city of Fremont officially adopting, what the voters passed on May 14th for the sales tax portion. This is along with the certified results and a boundary of the city is what I would need to send to the Nebraska Department of Revenue to continue our sales tax October 1 of 2024.
Questions for staff? Anybody here to speak on this item? Okay. Additional comments from council? If there aren't, I would take a motion. Councilman Jensen,
I'll make the motion to hold first reading on ordinance 5678.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Okay, cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Now have first reading.
An ordinance to adopt and continue to impose a sales and use tax effective on and after October 1, 2024 through September 30, 2034 of 0.5% upon the same transactions that the state of Nebraska is authorized to impose such tax pursuant to the provisions of the Nebraska Revenue Act of 1967 as amended and the Local Option Revenue Act of 1969 as amended to provide for the administration, assessment, collection, claims, remedies, penalties, and disposition of such sales and use tax, to repeal conflicting ordinances and to provide for an effective date of this ordinance on first reading.
Councilman Jensen,
I'll make the request to suspend the rules and move ordinance number 5678 to the third and final reading.
Councilwoman Ganem,
Second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Final reading.
An ordinance to adopt and continue to impose a sales and use tax effective on and after October 1, 2024 through September 30, 2034 of 0.5% upon the same transactions that the state of Nebraska is authorized to impose such a tax pursuant to the provisions of the Nebraska Revenue Act of 1967 as amended and the Local Option Revenue Act of 1969 as amended, to provide for the administration, assessment, collection, claims, remedies, penalties, and disposition of such sales and use tax, to repeal conflicting ordinances and provide for an effective date of this ordinance on final reading.
Cast your final vote.
The motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 21 is ordinance 5679, adopting the economic development plan approved by the voters on the May 14th, 2024. This will be first reading to consider request to suspend rules and move to final reading.
Again, Mayor and Council, this item was approved by the voters. This would continue the economic development plan that the citizens voted for on May 14th. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for staff on this item? Anybody here to speak on this issue? Okay, any additional comments from council? Not, I would take a motion. Councilwoman Ganem,
I move to approve ordinance 5679 to adopt the economic development plan for first reading.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second that.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
First reading.
An ordinance continuing the economic development program for the city of Fremont, Nebraska, adopting a new economic development plan is approved with the adoption of resolution 2003-297 on January 9th, 2024, and approval by the registered voters of the city of Fremont, establishing the terms and conditions thereof, to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and to provide for an effective date on first reading.
Councilman Jensen,
I'll make the request to suspend the rules and ordinance 5679 to the third and final reading at this time.
Councilman Horner,
I'll second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Final reading.
An ordinance continuing the economic development program for the city of Fremont, Nebraska, adopting a new economic development plan is approved with the adoption of resolution 2023-297 on January 9th, 2024, and approval by the registered voters of the city of Fremont, establishing the terms and conditions thereof, to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and to provide for an effective date on final reading.
Cast your final vote.
Ordinance is approved 7-0, Mayor.
Item 22 is a Councilmember Von Baron item, proposal for public comment, and I'll turn over to Councilman Von Baron.
Thank you, Mayor. It's no news to anyone that we've had a lot of discussion about public comment period and there's, given the Open Meetings Act and some of the restrictions that we have, it's been very difficult to work around it. I started to look at what other cities might do for public comment, and Travis actually put me on to a process that the Bellevue Public Schools use. Their form is too simple for us, but the basic concept is they will allow the public to put items on their agenda for discussion just by submitting a written request. So this is just a draft. The thoughts here are kind of a first run, but I think the key thing here is council meetings are good for decisions, but they're pretty bad for discussion. So what this does is creates another pre-meeting somewhat similar to what we had tonight, only it's a little more structured. It allows for response. So the basic format is that any Fremonter, someone in Fremont's extraterritorial jurisdiction, or if they believe they're going to be impacted by a council decision, would have the right to submit a topic for discussion to the city council. The initial vision, I have no idea if it's right or wrong, is to allow up to a half an hour at the first meeting of the month with up to 15 minutes per topic. That may not be enough, may be too much in some instances. But I think the key is they have to submit a form, and instead of just saying, hey, I want to say this, what do you really want? What's the reason for the concern? What would you like from the council? What kind of a response is an information? These would not be decision sessions. They may be followed by a decision session if we think it's appropriate, but this is discussion. So first of all, asking them to be very clear about what they want. If they want information, staff would have a chance to prepare information prior to the meeting. If it's not available, there would be a chance for follow-up after the meeting. Either way, there is something concrete, and the responses and the requests would be both part of public record, of course, through YouTube or whatever mechanism. Without going through all the detail of this, I think that a couple of key things. Number one, these requests we would take just simply in the order received. We wouldn't screen them. Obviously, if we try to screen them, there's some probably have more merit than others, but that opens us up to playing favorites or whatever. So I would advocate just letting people make the request. These are the first two received. If we get 6, we've got enough for the next 3 meetings. I realize that may not be sufficient for some of the concerns, but it's somewhat of a start. And at the end of 15 minutes, then we'd basically have to come to some decision as to what happens next. I'm not sure how to do that. There are several things we could do. There may be more staff action required. There may be follow-up by an individual councilman and staff. Those things can come all over the board. So I'm not quite sure, need some thoughts and comments as to how that might happen. For right now, I would suggest we continue our regular end of the month like we did tonight, till we understand what that format is, and we still may want to allow open public comment. But the thinking behind this is that the public comments might actually let staff address problems and concerns without the need for council action. It might actually streamline some of our interactions with the public. It also, instead of just random open comments, it drives the requirement for the public to be more specific if they really do want something. If it's just, if they want to air a grief, a gripe, concern, that's okay. That can be done in open public comment at the end of the month. But this would be for the purpose of addressing specific concerns. I'll give you one example that first came to mind, and that's the ADA bathrooms that have been brought up repeatedly. I did a little bit of asking about that, and there's more to that story than I really thought there would be. It does appear that the city has not neglected those at all. that we have taken, and this is my summary, I may be wrong, but my just rough summary is it appears that we've had funds available for ADA type improvements, but we have put them toward where they would benefit the most people. And so our second floor bathrooms haven't quite come into that category yet. And I think if the public understands things like this, this can help. Now, right now, it's just a black box that we've not answered. And I think just a simple discussion would, with simple matters like that over time, I think would resolve quite a few public issues that are maybe much simpler than we think. So with that, I'd appreciate the comment and beat it up as needed.
Councilman Horner.
Thanks for the explanation, Paul.
Turn your mic off. Thank you.
There we go. We've talked in this body, and before I was sitting up here and I was sitting out there, I've heard a lot of talk on Robert's Rules of Order. And that's how we conduct our session, is we follow Robert's Rules of Order. I'm no expert, but I am a student of them. I've actually got a copy of it. I could not find it. That's about the last, tells you when I last picked it up. But I will say this, the spirit of Robert's Rules of Order anticipates some of this, I believe. If you go to the Robert's Rules of Order and you look at the question of who can add an agenda item to a body's agenda, and it talks about members of the body can add agenda items to the agenda. So then if you start thinking about, well, who's a member of the body? That could be a pretty wide definition. But when you really look at it for Robert's Rules, the members of the body in this case would be city council members. The 8 elected, in some cases 3 appointed, members of this body that serve the representation for the non-members of this body, which would be the owners. And it still actually refers to, in some cases, non-member owners. And I think what they're talking about in that case is landowners. I think that's a carryover from, a bygone era. But anyways, I digress. I think we need to go back to Robert's Rules and look at some of this, because and really think long and hard about this before we start making changes. And I'm not against public comment periods or anything like that. I think there's value in them, and I think they need to continue. But I do think we need to think really, really long and hard on how we're going to make changes that are going to go basically against the adopted format that we use as a governing body, the Robert's Rules of Order, to carry out this business. And I've got a lot of questions. If we're going to add agenda items, but then we're not going to act on them, then they really aren't agenda items. They're discussion points. An agenda item is something that's supposed to be an actionable item according to Robert's Rules of Order. So if we're going to make agenda items, they need to be actionable, and we're going to have to make some decisions about them. And then my other question is that, we say we're going to, do a kind of a lottery ticket almost on how they get selected. But even that, I think, can become problematic. So while I appreciate Paul bringing this forward, when I read it, quite honestly, I'm a little taken aback on it, because it really concerns me that we're going to be overstepping or kind of squashing the intention of Robert's Rules of Order, which is to bring a very formal and a very systematic process to our democratic process on making decisions. And that's what the basis of the Robert's Rules of Order are. So I'm just going to say, let's discuss this, but we've got to really, really discuss it and proceed with caution.
Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, I would go to, I'll just give some of my own examples. There was a period I had a constituent that had an issue with his fencing he wanted to put in. So, I mean, I think that's what the public's, that's where they're supposed to come. They're supposed to come to their council person, and their council person is supposed to evaluate and go forward with it if it has some merit. And if the council member doesn't think it has some merit, and if the if his constituent is unhappy about that, he can vote him out. Anyway, I kind of got off the subject a little bit, but yeah, he brought this up to me. I looked at him, well, yeah, the fencing you want to have would fit very well in here. You should be able to do that. I took it to Jennifer Dam. We wrote up what needed to be wrote up, and we got it done. Those are the things that should happen. Don't necessarily have to happen in front of a live microphone and camera all the time. Frankly, I see this as a solution looking for a problem. And I'm with Councilman Horner about this. Let's be very, very careful about moving forward on changing anything that we've already got.
Councilman Vaughn?
As one of the people who helped poke this hornet's nets way back when, I appreciate you bringing this back for discussion. If nothing else, a couple of the things that I noticed that gave me pause were on the applicant side. Why is this item important? And that seems to be a very subjective kind of an opinion statement almost. And if already discussed, was the situation addressed? And I assume you could extrapolate that to mean, addressed to their satisfaction. Also, again, a subjective kind of an opinion statement, even on the city side as written. And I realize just a draft, a proposal, but we will respond to legitimate questions. Who gets to make the decision on what's legitimate, what's not? Again, subjective and an opinion. Also on the city side, will not discuss or respond to accusation, innuendo, etc. That's one more time, subjective and an opinion potentially. And to echo the other statement, Councilman Horner had 2 items maximum allowed. Is that enough? Does that leave some folks out in the cold who may had some short, quick, easy things they wanted to say? I appreciate the discussion, but I do think we should kind of roll as is and see if this does need to be addressed further.
Councilman Von Baron?
Yeah, just in response and thinking to one of the problems of trying to originate something like this is you get so deep at the detail, you forget the obvious. So number one, this is not about making decisions. This is just simply an opportunity for the public. I agree. There's no question that the best method would be if constituent would bring this to their council person and have them present it. But I think if you talk to the average member of the public, frankly, there's not a lot of confidence in us doing that. I can tell you that in the Central Park flooding issue, one of our own councilmen was our biggest opponent. And we finally, just through numbers, yeah, you can vote them out and all, but that's it. It took a lot to get around our own councilman, frankly. And so what this does, it's nothing binding. It's an opportunity. But right now, regardless of what level of government you're in, there's not a lot of confidence in what you do. And this is a simple way, I think, if we can correct it and maybe some of the deficiencies. The selection process, I understand the concerns may be the immediate, but the only fair way to do it, I think, is to take them sequentially. Because if we don't, that gives the appearance of us trying to shut out individuals and their comments. So it's a two-edged sword, but I think if we're going to truly allow interaction, we're going to have to go to something like this where we can, in fact, talk back and forth with constituents in regard to answers, legitimate questions or importance. I think the whole issue here is we're asking them to be specific for what they want. We may understand one thing, but they may be looking for another. And I think we can limit ourselves to simply the information that they ask for. So it doesn't become open-ended. It doesn't become arbitrary. So no, this isn't perfect. That's why I asked for the council's comment on it. But I think in some form, however we do it, we have to get something a lot more transparent than we're at right now, because public confidence in what we're doing, just the fact that we have no follow-up, even if we instituted a follow-up for our end of the month, that would be a major strike. But we have nothing. We sit here, we let them discuss, we let them talk, we sit here like stone walls. The ADA thing, yes, we have done something. We've prioritized ADA improvements, but the public doesn't know that. This is an opportunity to just go back and forth.
All right, any other discussion? This is a discussion item only, so. Oh, are there any public comment on this? Okay, seeing none, Councilman Jensen.
I'm gonna have to take some exception to, first and foremost, public confidence, the confidence that maybe nationally or statewide, yeah, there's some. We have 4 seats that are open. Our mayor's seat is open. We have 5 people up for election in this next election, and everybody's running unopposed. That tells me there's at least some level of confidence in what we're doing. And as far as meeting and talking with the councilman, when I first came on council, there were 2 people that were doing it. They did what they call coffee with their councilman. They had a shop set up downtown, and they'd come down. You could get a free cup of coffee and buy a lunch sandwich or something if you wanted, and sit and talk with your councilman once a month on a Saturday morning. I thought that was a great idea. I went to a couple. I found a coffee shop downtown that was willing to let me do it. I did it. Everybody quit showing up. Nobody was there ever. The only ones that were showing up were my aunt and my sister. So you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Councilwoman Ganem.
No, I just think we have to exercise caution. So I agree with my fellow colleagues here. Caution that we don't get into dialogue, that it doesn't become more than a discussion, because sometimes people come in for bear and they don't move off their position no matter what. And it becomes more of a conflict discussion than a true discussion. So we just have to say, what are the consequences if we implement this? Then how will that impact the rest of it?
Any other discussion from the council?
Just a question, because we talk about being more clear and spelling things out. When you put who, residents of Fremont, Fremont's ETJ, or anyone showing evidence of real or potential impact resulting from Fremont's actions or decisions. I just realized I'm not sure what ETJ stands for.
That's our extraterritorial jurisdiction, the 2 miles surrounding Fremont, thinking primarily about the Port Authority at this point. So, and my only admonition, if this isn't the solution, we still have the problem. And if the problem isn't solved, it's because of the people at this desk. And I know it's not easy, and so maybe this isn't right, but if this isn't the solution, let's at least bring one. We owe the public that.
All right, any other discussion? We'll move on to item 23 is the executive session for threatened pending litigation update. And you all have a form with the language. Councilman Jensen.
I move to go into executive session for the purpose of real estate matters and negotiation, and further reason that the executive session is necessary for protection of the public interest.
Hey, Councilman Jensen, you may have the wrong form. My apologies here. Yeah. You want to repeat the motion, please? Thank you.
We'll go into executive session for the purpose of discussing threatened and pending litigation update, and for further reason that the executive session is necessary for protection of the public interest.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Vaughn.
I will second.
Motion has been made and seconded to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing threatened and pending litigation update and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Is there any discussion? The pending motion is to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing threatened and pending litigation update and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Please cast your vote.
The motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
A motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing threatened and pending litigation update and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest has been approved. Discussion will be limited to discussing threatened and pending litigation update. No official actions or votes will be taken during the executive session. We will now move to the back conference room.
Make sure you throw the old papers away.
It's happened to me too, so I. Take a motion to come out of executive session. Councilman Vaughn,
So moved.
Councilman Jensen,
The second,
cast your votes to come out of executive session.
It's like Councilmember Jensen, didn't report your vote.
did,
Thank you.
press the wrong button.
Okay.
There you go.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Councilman Vaughn,
Motion to adjourn.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
We are adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.